You know what's the difference between someone who earns $5,000 a month and someone who earns $50,000? It's not ability, it's not intelligence, it's not luck, it's not even connections. The difference is happening in their heads before any external action. And the scariest part is that this difference is invisible to whoever is on the wrong side of it. There's a specific set of beliefs about money that functions as an invisible ceiling, like bulletproof glass. You can see through it. You can see where you want to get to. You can see other people on the other side. But you can't get through. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It doesn't matter how much you work. It doesn't matter how many hours you put in. You hit that ceiling and bounce back. Always. And that ceiling wasn't put there by the government. It wasn't put there by the market. It wasn't put there by the economic system. It was put there by something much closer. By phrases you heard in childhood. By examples you absorbed without questioning. By financial decisions you saw being made around you in the first 20 years of your life. And all of that became programming. Became automatic. Became who you are financially without you having consciously chosen it. And now you're trapped. Not in a physical prison, in a mental prison. And the worst type of prison is one where you don't realize you're trapped. Because if you don't realize it, you never try to escape. You just accept it. You call it reality. You call it, that's how things are. You call it, I have to be realistic. And you stay exactly where you are. But there's something specific about this middle-class mental programming that's different from all other limiting beliefs. Something that makes it particularly dangerous, particularly difficult to break. Because it doesn't seem limiting. It seems prudent. It seems responsible. It seems like exactly what an intelligent person should think. And that's why it works so well. Because you defend it. You protect it. You attack whoever questions it. Because questioning this belief seems like questioning your own identity as a sensible person. This video is part of a series on financial mental reprogramming for men trapped in middle income. And if you stay with me until the end, you're going to identify exactly which beliefs are operating in your head right now, which phrases you repeat without realizing, which decisions you make on autopilot, and most importantly, how these beliefs keep you exactly where you are, working hard and earning little. Let me show you how middle-class mentality manifests in your daily life without you realizing it. You receive a proposal, something that could change your financial situation, something that requires initial investment, something that has risk involved. And the first thing that comes to your mind isn't, could this work? The first thing is, what if it goes wrong? You don't analyze the potential for gain. You analyze the potential for loss. You don't think about how much you could grow. You think about how much you could lose. And this inversion, this natural tendency to focus first on risk, is pure middle-class programming. Because the middle class was taught to protect the little they have, not to risk to have more, and so you reject it. You don't reject the specific proposal, you reject the entire category. You create a mental rule that says, investing in yourself is too risky. And that rule protects you from losing, but it also prevents you from winning. And you stay stuck in the middle, with security, without growth. And there are the phrases you repeat without realizing their external programming running in your head. Phrases like, I can't afford to take risks. I have bills to pay, I can't do something crazy. Better to guarantee the certain than risk the uncertain. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to save for the future. And all these phrases seem sensible. They seem mature. They seem like what a responsible person should think. But when you look closely, when you analyze what's really being said, you realize they're maintenance phrases, conservation phrases, protection of what already exists. They're not expansion phrases, growth phrases, building something bigger. And you look around, you see that guy who started from nothing building something. And the first thing that comes to your mind is looking for the exception, looking for what he had that you don't have. He got lucky. He had connections. He inherited money. He caught the right moment. Because if the explanation is external exception, you don't need to question your internal programming. You stay right. You stay prudent. You keep doing what you've always done, and you stay exactly where you are. But here's the truth that hurts. It's not that you can't grow financially. It's that your mental programming doesn't allow it. Every time a real growth opportunity appears, an alarm goes off in your head. An alarm that says, this is too risky, and you pull back. Not because the opportunity is bad, but because your programming is conservative. And financial conservatism in stable times keeps you stable. But financial conservatism when you're trapped keeps you trapped. Because to get out of where you are, You need to do something different from what brought you here. And doing something different, by definition, is uncomfortable. It's risky. It's uncertain. And the middle-class mentality doesn't tolerate uncertainty. It prefers known misery over unknown possibility. It prefers the security of earning little over the risk of trying to earn more. If you recognize these phrases in yourself, if you notice this tendency to focus first on risk, comment here. Conservative mentality. Because I want to know how many men are trapped in exactly this pattern right now. Now comes the part nobody talks about, because it questions the very identity of the middle class. And this is where most people fail. Middle-class mentality operates from a fundamental principle. Time for money is the only legitimate way to earn. Any other form is suspect. It's luck, it's exception, it's for other people. And this principle is so deep, so ingrained, that you don't even question it anymore. You wake up, you go to work, you trade your hours for salary, and you call this honest work. Deserved earnings, the correct way to build a life. And I'm not saying working is wrong. I'm not saying salary is bad. I'm saying that if this is the only way you believe is possible, you're limited by the belief itself. Because there are men earning while they sleep, earning from decisions they made years ago, earning from systems they built, earning from value they created once, and that continues generating returns. And when you see this, when you see someone earning without directly trading time for money, the middle-class programming reacts. It seeks to invalidate. That's not real work. He's exploiting someone. That's unsustainable. Anything to avoid having to admit there's another way. Because admitting that would be admitting you're choosing the limited way. And there's another deep pattern here. Middle-class mentality sees money as a finite resource, like a pie that needs to be divided. If someone has more, it's because someone has less. If someone gets rich, it's because someone got poor. It's a zero-sum game in the head of whoever thinks this way. And when you operate from this belief, when you truly believe that wealth is redistribution and not creation, you develop guilt about earning more. Because earning more, in your head, means taking from someone. It means being greedy. It means being the person you were taught to despise. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this in Rich Dad, Poor Dad when he differentiates employee mentality from investor mentality. But the point isn't just about money, it's about identity. Because the middle class isn't just an income bracket, it's a way of seeing the world. It's a set of unwritten rules about what's acceptable, what's possible, what's deserved. And as long as you operate from these rules, as long as you measure your financial decisions by the standard of what would the middle class do, you'll stay in the middle class. Because the rules were made to keep you there. They were made to protect, not to expand. They were made to conserve, not to grow. And this is where most people fail. Not in execution, not in discipline, not in effort, but in the courage to question the rules. To ask, who said it has to be this way? To consider that maybe, just maybe, everything they taught you about money was wrong, or at least incomplete. Because the truth is this, the middle class teaches its children to be middle class. Not out of malice, but because it's all they know. They pass forward the programming they received. And if you absorb this programming without questioning, you're destined to repeat the same cycle. Work hard, earn reasonably, live tight, and pass the same programming to your children. If this is making sense, like and follow the channel. This helps this content reach those who need to hear it. Let me ask you a question that will reveal your real programming. If someone offered you $100,000 right now, no conditions, no catch, just gave you the money, what would be your first action with that money? Think carefully. Not the answer that seems right. The answer that comes first to your head. The automatic answer. If the answer was pay off debts, you just revealed middle-class mentality. I'm not saying paying debt is wrong. I'm saying that if that's the first thing that comes before thinking about investing, before thinking about multiplying, before thinking about creating a system, you're operating from scarcity. You're thinking about eliminating negatives, not creating positives. If the answer was save for emergencies, same thing. You're thinking about protection, about security, about having a cushion, and all of that is valid. But if it's the first thing, if it comes before thinking about growth, you're revealing that your relationship with money is defensive, not offensive. Because see, the mentality that builds wealth thinks differently. The first question isn't, how do I protect this? The first question is, how do I multiply this? It's not, where do I store it safely? It's, where do I put it to grow? It's not, how do I eliminate risk? It's which risk is worth taking. And you might argue that this is irresponsible, that it's throwing away the opportunity, that it's not valuing money. But here's the truth. Whoever thinks like that will never have $100,000 to make that decision, because mentality comes before money. How you think about money determines how much money you attract, and the middle class thinks about money as something to protect, to save, to use with extreme caution. And when you think like that, you make protective decisions. You avoid risk, you seek security, and security doesn't generate growth. Security generates maintenance. So here's the real test. Do you have a growth mentality or a maintenance mentality? Do you think of money as a tool to build or as a resource to protect? Do you see opportunity or risk first? Because as long as you see risk first, as long as your mental pattern is, what if it goes wrong, before, what if it goes right, you're operating from the system that keeps you trapped. And it doesn't matter how much money falls into your hands. You'll use it in a way that keeps you exactly where you are. Now let's talk about what truly separates middle-class mentality from prosperity mentality. And it's not what you think. It's not about earning more. You can earn more and still have middle-class mentality. You can double your salary and keep living tight. Because mentality isn't about the amount of money. It's about the relationship with money. The fundamental difference is in how you see your own value. The middle class sees value as fixed. I'm worth X per month. That's my market value. That's what I deserve to earn. And with that comes acceptance, comes conformity, comes the idea that this is the natural ceiling. But prosperity mentality sees value as variable, as something that can be increased, as something that can be built. Not, I'm worth X, but I can become someone who's worth Y. And this shift in perspective changes everything. Because now it's not about accepting current value, it's about building future value. And this manifests in daily decisions. The middle class invests in comfort, in having a nice house, a decent car, reasonable vacations, and all of that is valid. But if all extra money goes to consumption, to comfort, to improving standard of living, nothing remains to build future value. Prosperity mentality invests differently, invests in skills, in knowledge, in network, in systems, in anything that increases the value they can deliver to the market. Because they understand that personal value determines financial value. And the more value you build, the more the market pays. And here comes real financial direction. It's not about budgeting. It's not about saving 10% of salary. It's not about cutting out coffee. It's about you deciding if you're building or consuming, if you're investing in future value or spending on present comfort. And the middle class was programmed to consume, to work all week and spend on the weekend, to deserve comfort because they worked hard. And this cycle, work to consume, never generates accumulation, never generates growth. It only generates maintenance of the current standard. But when you change this, when you start thinking, how much of this money can I convert into future value? The equation changes. You stop asking, can I buy this? And start asking, does this bring me closer to where I want to go? And this isn't about extreme frugality. It's not about living miserably to accumulate. It's about clarity of purpose. It's about you knowing where you're going and making decisions aligned with that direction. It's about understanding that every dollar you spend on temporary comfort is a dollar that's not building permanent freedom. And when you develop this clarity, when you truly embody this, you start making different decisions. You stop buying things to impress people you don't even like. You stop spending on temporary status. You stop consuming out of anxiety or boredom. And you start directing resources toward real construction. And this creates self-mastery of a specific type. The mastery of delaying gratification, not out of obligation, but out of choice. Because you have something bigger you want to build. Because you have purpose that matters more than immediate comfort. And therein lies the real difference. The middle class lives for today, for the week, for the month. Prosperity mentality lives for the decade, for long-term construction, for legacy. And when you think in decades, daily decisions change. Because you're no longer optimizing for comfort today. You're optimizing for freedom tomorrow. And if you want me to dive deeper specifically into how to break the consumption cycle and start building real value, comment here, build value. This will be one of the next topics in the series. But there's something deeper that needs to be said. Something about identity that most people never question. You're not middle class because you earn a middle class salary. You earn a middle class salary because you identify as middle class. And as long as that identity is intact, As long as you see yourself as ordinary hardworking person who does the right thing, you'll keep doing exactly what ordinary hardworking people do. And ordinary hardworking people earn ordinary salaries. Think about it. When you introduce yourself to someone, how do you describe yourself? I work at X. I am Y. I earn Z. And all of that is borrowed identity. It's you defined by function, by position, by salary, not by who you are, not by what you build, not by what you represent. And when your identity is tied to the position, the job, the fixed salary, you protect it. Because losing that would be losing who you are. So you don't risk, you don't question, you don't test other possibilities. Because doing so would threaten the identity you've built. And this is the most sophisticated prison of all. Not a prison of circumstance, a prison of identity, where you yourself are the jailer, where you yourself build the bars, where you yourself lock the door, and then complain that you can't get out. But there are men who get out. There are men who break this identity, who stop seeing themselves as employees and start seeing themselves as value creators, who stop defining themselves by position and start defining themselves by impact, who stop measuring success by salary and start measuring by freedom. And when you make this internal change, when you truly rebuild your financial identity, actions change automatically, because you're no longer trying to protect who you are. You're trying to build who you want to be. And building requires risk, requires experimentation, requires you to do things that ordinary people don't do. And at first, this scares you, because you're going against everything you were programmed to believe. You're questioning the rules that everyone around you follows. You're leaving the herd. And leaving the herd leaves you vulnerable, leaves you visible, leaves you subject to criticism. But here's the truth. The herd is going nowhere. The herd is stuck in the same cycle, working hard, earning average, complaining silently. And if you want to get to a different place, you need to leave the herd. You need to be willing to be criticized. You need to be willing to be misunderstood. You need to be willing to seem crazy to the eyes of those who are trapped. Because real mentality change isn't comfortable. It's not accepted. It's not validated by the group. It's lonely. It's uncomfortable. It's you against everything they taught you. And only those who truly want to get out can handle that discomfort. So now you know. Middle-class mentality isn't about how much you earn. It's about how you think. It's about what you believe is possible. It's about what you believe you deserve. It's about how you see yourself and how you see money. And the hardest thing to accept is that nobody forced this mentality on you. You absorbed it. You accepted it. You internalized it. Because it seemed sensible. Because it seemed safe. Because it seemed like what a responsible person should think. But sensible doesn't get you out of the middle class. Safe doesn't build wealth. Responsible, the way they taught you, just keeps you exactly where you are. And now you have a choice. You can defend the programming. You can argue that everything I said here is wrong. That middle-class mentality is actually prudence. That it's maturity. That it's realism. And you can stay exactly where you are. Working hard, earning average, living tight. Or you can consider that maybe, just maybe, everything they taught you about money had a purpose. Not to make you rich. To keep you stable. To keep you productive. To keep you in the same class. And if you consider this, if you truly open space to question the programming, then comes the hardest part. Because questioning isn't enough. You need to reprogram. You need to build new beliefs, new patterns, new identity, and there's a specific sequence to do this. There are steps that need to be followed. There are beliefs that need to be deconstructed before others. There's identity that needs to be rebuilt in a specific way. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you in the next video of this series. I'm going to show you how you identify each limiting belief that's operating now, how you deconstruct it without going into identity crisis, how you build new beliefs that sustain real financial growth, and how you do this practically, not just theoretically. But I need to warn you, the next video isn't for those who just want to understand. It's for those who want to transform. It's for those who are willing to do the uncomfortable internal work. It's for those who truly want to get out of the middle class, not just complain about being in it. So if today you recognized the mentality in yourself, if you saw the beliefs operating, if you identified the programming, don't stop here, because today you understood the problem. In the next one, you'll understand how to truly reprogram. And that's what separates those who just consume content from those who actually change their lives.